Well, welcome back to The Good Life by Design with me, Carly Flynn, Henry McTavish, and Hamish Dodds. This week on our design podcast, we're going to be talking about appliances because we've spent the last couple of sessions talking about planning for your kitchen and trying to avoid your budget blowouts. And I think sometimes we forget that amongst all of the pretty things, there has to be some pretty great functional things going on in your kitchen, like your oven, like your range hood, like your hot water tap, whatever it is. So that's our chat this week, lads. We're going to talk about appliances. Who knew?
I know, but you're right. They're super important, and I think a lot of it, can come down to your choices. Is what suits you, right? So there are people who like induction. There are people who still swear by gas. Sometimes you just need a plain, old, ceramic hot plate, because that's what works for you. Ovens, sizes, what you deem necessary. I like a lot of fridge storage. That's important to me. But it's about picking what's going to work for you as a family. What are your thoughts, Henry, when it comes down to actually choosing something that suits you?
So I'm going to be a bit boring and I'll carry on talking about function. Sorry. Look, I think one issue that can kind of be a big one, often people go by brand. Try and cut that and really think about the function. I think then you can actually mix and match. That kind of comes down to pricing as well. Often, some of the expensive brands, they can really blow the budget. And, when you think of functionality, there's some great innovations. It's a huge thing overseas. Not so much here, but every brand does do them, is side opening ovens.
Side ovens?
Yeah, well, because you're not actually bending down, you're not using your back as a lever, you're not reaching over, because the door opens to the left or the right, whichever you decide to choose. Great if you're older. I think they're a lot easier. One thing I do like with them is that if you have two on top of each other, often when you've got the door down, it might actually be too high. If you've got something really heavy like leg of lamb or something like that, to open it up to the side, it's ergonomically, it's a lot safer for you. I think that too kind of melds into if you've got a really tiny kitchen space, instead of having a trip hazard that's pulled down, to have it off to the side, you've still got a clear alleyway kind of going through. So, kind of look at that. There's some fantastic dishwashers. So you've got the AEG Comfort Lift where the bottom drawer, you pull it out and it actually comes up to waist level. Which it sounds like a stupid thing, but everyone pulls out that bottom shelf and, the number of time it actually comes off the runners. And you always put your heaviest things on there. Fisher and Paykel have got their dishwasher drawers absolutely amazing, because, if you're older or, with heavier things, you really don't want to be, virtually crouching on the ground, kind of picking things up. So
yeah. We did mention the side opening oven, Henry, which is genius. I thought you were going to say a steam oven. What the heck is a steam oven for? Because they're everywhere at the moment, and some people have a convection oven and then a steam oven as well.
Yeah. So you shouldn't be asking me. I'm not that much of a cook, but kind of that too could come down to costings. So
my husband who's come home and making cheese and crackers in the background.
Hello. So
bad days.
Neff actually do an absolutely fantastic oven. Neff I really like because their door, it comes down and it retracts into the oven. So you've got no hazards. They've developed technology with the seal. So they've got a combined steam oven and traditional oven. So instead of buying two units, you've actually got one unit that performs those functions. So, once again, expensive, but you're not buying two units and you're cutting down space. So it's just something to think about there.
The only real difference is that a steam oven uses steam to generate the heat and do the cooking as opposed to an element in a traditional oven. I mean, I'd have to be 10, 15 years ago. I remember going to a Miele launch, and they had like a sort of a display suite in Mount Wellington in Auckland, and you could go and they did demonstrations with a chef, because steam ovens basically were unheard of at that point in New Zealand, and suddenly they wanted specifiers to say to people, "Hey, do you know? Have you seen a steam oven?" Now the chef there said, "If you're a big cook, you'll love a steam oven. If you know how to use a steam oven, you'd never use a conventional oven again." However, they have not taken off in great strides in this country. I know of people who have put steam ovens in and never used them because they're like, that they bought it because that's what you do, right? You have the matching regular 600 and the 600 steam oven. So if you're not going to use it, or you've never heard of one, or you're not game to try it because you're a massive cook in some way, well, to me that's money down the drain. It's pointless.
I think in that question too, that's where it comes down to function. Be realistic. You're not entering MasterChef. Well, perhaps, and that's where...
For yourself, Henry. Speak for yourself.
No, people get so excited about appliances, and, they can kind of go crazy and, kind of have this imagination of the fantastic dinner parties that they're going to have. But, look at combination units. This is something Hamish and I have talked about, but going on to... cooktops, that's going to be quite an interesting thing. There is the movement and the green thing with regards to gas. So, whether in the future that's going to be popular. So, ceramic versus induction. One thing to remember with induction, absolutely fantastic. But if you do have a pacemaker, just be careful because electromagnetic fields can play with that. So that's just one thing. Hamish too was talking about a client who had an impairment.
Yep.
So, looking at raised knobs, something that's visually, something that stands out. You said with the client that you actually use sound, as a way for them to know which way.
This is it. So the client is visually impaired, as in one is completely blind and the other has very, very little sight. And we had to choose a cooktop. Gas is not really for them because, the tick, 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 they had to listen out. They could get all that going, but it was an open flame, so there was the chance of a hazard. So they thought, of course, well, great. We no longer just need a normal old ceramic cooktop. We can get induction. But if you actually have used most induction cooktops, they tend to just be something you put your finger on and slide backwards and forwards. And then you can't actually tell which one's on without looking at the little gauge. I'm pretending to do this with my eyes closed because you can't feel the heat coming from which one's on, right? As it warms up, because it only cooks when you put the pot on.
Yeah.
And so we needed something that actually had knobs and dials. So they've gone back to a very nice modern, ceramic cooktop. They're not as fancy as the gas looking stuff or the induction because the technology is phasing out there slowly. Soon they will be gone. However, this was a point in need, and it was about finding the correct appliance.
Yes.
For the client.
Definitely. Yeah, and I on that, I've purchased an induction because I have loathed our gas hobs for such a long time now. They've been so difficult to clean. They've been wonderful for cooking, but it's either hot or really hot when on our previous gas stove. But I don't know if I've got the right pots when we move back in, if they're going to work. Or if
you'll know when
I will
happens.
know very quickly. But I just wanted to say, we've talked a lot about budget blowouts in the last couple of weeks on the Good Life by Design podcast, or about budget blowouts with regards to kitchens. One of the things that I really wanted, but was just exceptionally, ridiculously over the top, was an integrative fridge. Why are they so expensive, Hamish?
Because not many fridges are actually designed to be integrated. There's very few of them. It's quite a different kind of fridge. And when the kitchen that I'm sitting in, the fridge is right here next to me, inside the panels. I'll just stand there.
Envy.
Hello, fridge. You're in there somewhere, aren't you?
You are paid too much.
when this was done, there were only a couple of fridges that were truly integrated. Back in the day, you used to be able to integrate your Fisher and Paykel fridges. It was a plastic thing that was screwed to the fridge in the cabinet and slid and opened the door at the same time.
I thought about magnets.
This is properly integrated. So the panel on the front here is the front of the fridge, right? Which is great. However, I couldn't even tell you the brand of the fridge. It might be something like a Grierson or something like that. It's an unusual brand of fridge, but that's what you could get, and it's not that big. So we also have to have a cool drawer to carry the overflow because that's just how it worked out. Cool drawers.
Another exceptionally expensive but wonderfully functional appliance.
Yeah, people always ask me because they see it and they go, "Oh, is it good?" And I went, "Hands down, love it." But it's expensive. But you can turn it into a freezer. You can turn it into a wine chiller for a party. We use it for one half of it for drinks, so that's where all the tall drinks and everything stand. By that I mean wine bottles stand up in it. And then next to it, we have all the green groceries. All the fresh stuff we use all the time.
So covering all the food groups there. That's wonderful.
It is. They're all in one. The green wholesome diet of the vegetarian with the wine. But yeah, it's about having. But see, I see value in it, so I would spend the money on it. Others may not. I tell you, in fridges, the other day I saw a Mitsubishi fridge. Now, I don't even think Mitsubishi build good cars anymore. They stopped building their Evolutions. So what do they make now? Yeah, well, you know what I mean. And so the last thing I thought is these guys are going to build an amazing fridge. Well, I was wrong. They build an incredible fridge. I was blown away by the use and layout of the interior of the fridge. Just the varieties, the different bins you had that all sealed that you could keep at different temperatures. A sensational fridge inside the freezer, big drawers inside the freezer. The ice maker was, not an ice coming out of the fridge one, but it made big cubes that auto-emptied into big bins. So you could actually have people over and have ice, not like freak out and run to the servo to grab another bag of ice for the family. So check out that. But you see, it's about doing your research, I think. And I thought that was a good fridge. They're well priced and worth having a look at.
Actually, one thing for the two of you, and it's kind of probably one of the strangest appliances that seems to have the most effect and the most diversity, range hoods. So yes. I think kind of one thing, you can get the built-ins. That one area, don't go for brand, go for performance. Ariston, strangely, is one of the cheapest brands. It's also one of the most quiet. Sound is a huge thing. And extracted range hoods are kind of one of the worst. But look, Hamish, have you worked with any clients? One thing I do like is sometimes if you've got a very open plan kitchen, you don't have storage. I personally don't like seeing a range hood, but having the extractor fans that are part of the cooktop appliance, that can pop up. I believe they're a lot better than what they. We used to actually have one here. Yeah, it was like in a slot next to the range, next to the cooktop. Now it was really good at sucking the steam from the pots that were next to it. But to get the pots on the other side of a 900 cooktop, it sounded like we were at Mangere Airport next to a jet engine running to suck it out. And even then, it was pretty poor at doing it. Then they invented the ones that rose up at the back, which, yes, better idea, but still didn't get much from the front, you see. So I was never a massive fan of them. However, they have got better. And then, of course, Henry, we had the ones that looked like light fittings or had the light in them over the top. That's when we put the cooktop in the island, back in those days. Thankfully, we don't do that much anymore or at all. And they had a charcoal filter. And you know what? I believe they were okay, but not brilliant. Yeah. I think you're right. You want a decent extraction system. Make sure you clean it regularly and look after it. But the noise is a real problem. The noise is a real problem, and that's been kind of an interesting thing. So you've got absolutely amazing products, from Schweigen they do the engine's actually, you know, kind of an external engine, so you just
Yes.
don't get the noise. They cost an awful lot of money. It's
They're
one
very
of those
good.
things that people actually will invest in because noise is such a big part of
So when
the
I walked
annoyance.
into my appliance store and picked my range hood on look and price,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have a clue when I put it in my kitchen in 2 weeks' time what it's going to sound like. Typically, could I have asked in store for them to let me hear it?
Yeah, no, that's always an idea.
Sure.
You know, and it's just, if you're not going for a brand, you know, kind of what are the things that annoy you? If they don't have the answer, ask to speak to someone else. Because if they don't know, they can do the research and come back to you. But it's knowledge they should have as well. It's one of those, especially with built-ins, it's a great way of cutting down some cost. And you know, the most expensive brands aren't necessarily the best. You know,
No, and on that note, Henry, too, with one thing I've done for a client, well, a few of them. Now, this is going to sound slightly more extravagant than your average bear. We had a long back wall in a kitchen. That's where the freestanding cooker was. It was a lot of bench, and we weren't having cabinetry above it, which is not uncommon these days, is to not have a lot of overhead cabinetry. And what we decided to do was have obviously a range hood sitting there. Now, every range hood we looked at, even the biggest ones we could buy width-wise, just still looked tiny on the back wall. So we actually went to a local stainless steel fabricator and got them to make one.
Oh, great.
And so all we did was buy the power pack, which is what would sometimes go into kitchen cabinetry, which would be your extractor. And we got the engineers to make us one, and it stuck out 350 mil past the oven on the cooktop on one side, and it stretched out about 1.2 meters the other way. So we had a nice asymmetric, so central flue short on one side, long on the other. And obviously it didn't have extractor through that whole area, but we had some lighting in it underneath it. So visually it gave us what we wanted for the space.
Okay, so we've spoken about range hoods, we've done fridges, we've done ovens, we've done dishwashers. That's what more could you possibly want?
Microwaves. Do you guys have a microwave showing in the kitchen? Or do you have it hidden in the cupboard with shame like me?
In 20 years, we have bought a microwave. Not had one, but this kitchen, we're putting one in. I don't know what I'm going to use it for.
You use it to warm up your Wattie spaghetti.
That's what my daughter said. Exactly right.
It's really good for kids to be able to go and make something quick and easy. It's good for noodles. You can steam it. You know what? If you actually read a bit about it, so I do eggs in it for fun for my sweet wife. She calls them her aeroplane eggs or her McDonald's eggs. So you get a coffee cup. And you spray it with, like the non-stick stuff.
Oil spray.
Oil spray. It's got to be the spray one, right? And then what you do is you crack 2 eggs into a bowl. You whisk them up with the fork, but not like perfectly mixed through. You pour them into the cup. You sprinkle salt on the top, and you must. You put it in the microwave for 30 seconds. Let it stop. Do it for another 30 seconds. Let it stop, get it out, and tip it out of the cup. It is amazing. And people will go, wow, because it reminds you of something that you can't normally make at home. I don't know what it is. But don't do it for 1 minute thinking, why would you do it twice for 30? Because it explodes. Okay, so don't do that. I did that.
Not just the Good Life by Design. It is the Good Life with Hamish's top design tips and his we call them googers in our household. His googer recipes.
That is my recipe for you all. I've shared it with you. I watched it on YouTube myself. I thought they were morons for doing 2 lots of 30 seconds. Wrong. Definitely do 2 lots of 30 seconds, not 1 minute.
Hey, actually, there's one more area. Small appliances, toasters, what are your solutions? That's one of the awful bugbears. You know, one thing I do like, Bloom do the lockable shelves. which, kind of why not put your toaster on that, be able to pull it out, lock it, do your thing, and then put it away, because it's kettles, toasters, you don't really want to see them, you don't want them around, but you use them all the time. What are your ideas about that?
Haven't had a kettle for 2 years, Carly, since I had my hot water tap. Don't miss it one bit.
Yes, and I've done the same on your recommendation for our new kitchen, but nobody's come up with a toaster equivalent, and I'm not looking forward to having the crumbs and the toaster going all day, every day, and then if you hide it in the cupboard, the crumbs get transported there.
No, mine sits on a tray.
Which you then must clean.
Yes, but a tray you can at least tip down. You're not reaching into the back of the cupboard to get the crumbs. Have you ever slid a toaster and watched all the crumbs fire out of it because you're lazy and didn't lift it? That's me.
Between exploding microwaves and crumbless toasters, that is us for another...
and eggs.
And eggs. Aeroplane eggs. Because that is us for another week on Good Life by Design podcast. Henry McTavish, Hamish Dodd, fabulous as always. Catch you next time.
See ya.
Bye.